You might actually be getting rich right now and you don't even know it. In today's video, I am going to drop the signs of wealth building so you can check them against your own life. A few months ago on this channel, I did a video about how to spot a stealth wealth millionaire. That video was all about reading other people, but today we redoing the opposite. We re-talking about your daily habits and behaviors that tell me you are low. Key getting rich even if it does feel like it yet. The first sign that tells me you are quietly leveling up is that you a long-term player who won T-compromise for short. Term hits. One of my favorite thinkers, Naval Ravikant, says that if you play long-term games, you win long-term rewards. In fact, let us listen to a clip where he breaks this down. I actually believe that everything in life, all the great rewards come from compound interest. It comes from the length and strength of your relationships. Look at the PayPal mafia and how they kept compounding by starting new companies together. It's the same in your marriage or your health. The longer you stay with it, the better it gets. Right? Warren Buffett is one of the richest guys on earth because he never blew his cash. He just reinvested it. He let his wealth compound over decades of holding. So if that clip resonates with you, that's a massive sign you are headed for huge financial success. If you want a real-world example of how to spot this in yourself, think about how you shop. Let's say you want something that costs $50 or maybe even $500. How long do you wait before you actually pull the trigger and buy it? Rich people usually spend months researching before they buy anything. They wait for the perfect discount, or sometimes they realize they didn't even need the thing in the first place. If you have the habit of delaying a purchase, it means you mastered delayed gratification. That means you probably a long-term person in your spending and your investing. This concept is what makes you incredibly wealthy in the future. You have to learn to trade temporary instant hits for a much bigger financial future. Building wealth is usually a long, slow grind that isn't always obvious day. Today, a lot of the signs we talking about today show you are on the right track, even if the bank balance hasn't caught up to your actions yet. The second sign is that you making more money, but you have zero desire to spend more. Most people get a raise or a bonus and immediately upgrade their life because they can afford it. By the way, that is just human nature. The more resources you have, the more you tend to use it. It's like back in school when you had 2 weeks to write a paper. You usually take the full 2 weeks. Even if the work only took a few hours, you use up all the available resources, including your time. That same behavior leaks into your finances. If you make 60 grand and spend 55, you save 5,000 a year, then suddenly you get promoted and make 80 grand. Most people subconsciously bump their spending up to 75 grand. They think, well, I am still saving 5,000. So I am fine, but what if I challenged you to keep your lifestyle exactly the same after that promotion? Suddenly you resaving $20,000 a year instead of 5. That shift in habit completely changes your financial trajectory forever. In the long run, your savings rate is a much bigger factor in your wealth than your investment returns ever will be. The wealthy people I talk to see a bigger paycheck as a reason to buy more stuff. They see it as how much more can I actually keep. If you don't feel that itch to spend when you get more cash, that is a huge sign you are going to be truly wealthy. Sign number 3 is that you don't have a car loan. Maybe you drive a reliable 5 to 10-year-old car that's fully paid off, or even if you drive something nice, you bought it in cash. If you truly understand that spending $700 a month on a car note for an asset that loses value every single day is a terrible move, then you are getting rich. If you save that $700 a month, that's over $8,000 a year for your brokerage account, over 10 years with compound interest that could grow to over $100,000 by the time you retire. Research shows about 40% of Americans are buried under car debt with average payments around $767. So if you re-driving debt-free, you already have more disposable income than the average person, and hopefully you reusing that gap to save and invest. Even if you do have a car loan, you can still be getting rich if you bought something where the depreciation hit has already happened. If you look at car depreciation curves, they usually flatten out after about 5 years, that's when most of the value has already been lost. So buying a used car with 30,000 miles that's 3 to 5 years old is a genius move. If you either have no loan or you understand the depreciation game, you are doing great. You realize a car is just a tool to get from A to B, not a personality trait. Sign number 4 is mastering the art of living below your means. This just means your outgo is always less than your income. Growing that gap between what you make and what you spend is the engine of wealth. That gap is what eventually buys your freedom. There are 2 ways to do this. First, you can slash your expenses so your current income leaves a bigger gap, or second, you can jack up your income as much as possible to create that gap naturally. Let's look at the first way, cutting costs. I like to look at the last 3 months of my spending and track every single cent. Just doing that exercise usually shows you where you're re-wasting money on things you don't even like. Once you see the patterns, you can cut the fat. The goal is to watch that gap every month and make sure it's growing or at least staying steady. Now, the second way, increasing income, is actually much more powerful. Data shows 66% of households making over 6 figures live below their means, but for households making under 50 grand, that number drops to less than 40%. It's objectively easier to save when you make more. Obviously, making more money is easy. It usually means switching jobs or building a high-income skill that's hard to replace. I talked all about building those skills in my last video, so check that out later. The point is, if you retracking that gap and keeping your expenses down, you are winning. The fifth sign is that you've started valuing your time way more than material things. When you reach the point where your time is more precious than an object, you start buying back your life. Most people want to buy more stuff to show the world they redoing well. When we re-young, we want the new car or the big house for the flex. But the real secret of wealth is having the power to say no to things you don't too want to do. You do things because you want to, not because you are forced to for a paycheck. It means you have the resources to trade money for freedom instead of trading freedom for money. Maybe you spend $150 every 2 weeks for someone to clean your house. If that saves you 4 hours of labor, you can use that time to make more money or just relax. That rest might put you in a better creative state for your work later in the week. If you've started calculating the dollar value of your hour and deciding what is worth your time, that's a sign of a wealthy mind. Sign number 6. You've stopped comparing yourself to other people. It's a term in finance called keeping up with the Joneses. It's been around forever because it's the fastest way to stay broke. The second you start comparing your bank account to your neighbor or your friends on social media, you lose focus on what actually matters to your own goals. Comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel is a trap. You have no idea what's actually happening in their lives. That new car could be a lease they can barely afford, or their apartment might be eating 50% of their take home pay. You don't know the truth. And honestly, it doesn't matter. If you quietly getting rich, you probably aren't even looking at them anymore. When you stop caring about other people's opinions, you stop paying the vanity tax on your life. If you can do that, you are officially on the right track. Next is sign number 7. You've stopped flexing your money. Usually the people who talk the loudest about their wealth have the least amount of liquid cash. People get a raise or buy a car and immediately post it on Instagram. A lot of the joy they get from buying things is actually just the attention they get from others. If you eat a $1,000 Michelin dinner and nobody sees it, did it even happen? For some people, social validation is the only reason they bought the meal. It's the same with people taking flex photos in front of the Eiffel Tower or posting 20 stories from a concert. Truly wealthy people stay low key because they don't need outsiders to validate their financial strength. They have nothing to prove to anyone. This applies to your income too. If someone is constantly bragging about how much they make, their identity is tied to the dollar sign. But if you getting rich, you probably focused on a different number. Your net worth, that number is way more important because it reflects your actual habits. If you find yourself talking less about money and just being about it, that's a great sign. Sign number 8 is that things that used to feel like a sacrifice don't feel that way anymore. When you start the wealth journey, every dollar saved feels like you missing out, like bringing a boring lunch to work instead of going to the deli for a sandwich. It can give you some serious FOMO in the beginning, but over time, that feeling of missing out totally disappears. This is actually my favorite sign of progress. The things that felt like a grind early on eventually become things you actually enjoy. Staying in on a Friday night might have felt like a tragedy in your early 20s, but later in life, that might be exactly what you want to do. You might want to stay home alone and play League of Legends while screaming at strangers on the internet, like I do at some point. That becomes the obvious choice. Trust me on that. Or maybe maxing out your Roth IRA doesn't feel like locking money away anymore. It feels like you are investing in a much better future version of yourself. As your identity shifts from bad with money to financial pro, your values change with it. When your values align with good habits, it isn't a sacrifice anymore. When discipline becomes a habit, the discomfort dies. If bringing your own coffee or skipping the luxury brand feels normal now, you are quietly getting rich, finally. Sign number 9 is that you don't panic when the market drops. If you've been around the finance world long enough, you know the market is a roller coaster. Macro events are always causing swings when the news is all negative, and your group chats are blowing up with, oh shit, I lost 10% today. Your mindset is everything. Most people panic and sell at the bottom, turning a paper loss into a real loss. Unless you are retiring next week, staying in the market is almost always better than trying to time it. Volatility is the price you pay for long-term gains. If you are unsure, just look at the long-term charts. Despite Black Monday in '87 or 9/11s or the 2020 pandemic, the market has always trended up over the long haul. Smart investors see a dip as a sale and a chance to buy more. If you can stay calm during a crash because you believe in the 20-year return, your money mindset is mature. Trusting the data and the process is exactly what you need to win. If you vibe with this video, leave a comment and let me know. And don't forget to check out the next video on the screen right now. It's the one where I talk about the skills you need to blow your net worth up from 0 to 100,000. I think you are really going to dig that one. If not, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Oh shit, stay safe. Peace.